Hello and welcome to our English news edition broadcast to you by Canal Algérie. To the headlines. The pharmaceutical industry minister inspects 5 enterprises specialized in pharmaceutical production, an opportunity to recall Algeria's efforts to cover the national needs in terms of insulin production. The eastern province of Annaba is ready to ensure the smooth running of the Chan with sporting facilities and hotels up to the international standards. In Morocco, contractual teachers arrested and sentenced following their participation in national protest movements so as to demand their most basic rights. And only a few days ahead of the Nair celebration, several provinces are getting ready, as it is the case of Blida province, where the inhabitants are excited to celebrate the Amazigh New Year. Good evening, those were the headlines. First, the Minister of Pharmaceutical Industry, Ali Aoun, accompanied by the Governor of Algiers, inspected 5 enterprises specialized in the pharmaceutical production in Sidi Abdullah. This visit was an opportunity to recall Algeria's efforts to ensure the local production of medicines and cover the national needs, notably in terms of insulin production. More details with Melissa Gubash.
The first local production of single-use injectable insulin for diabetes has been launched in this production plant with a capacity of more than 60 million insulin pens. The Minister of Pharmaceutical Industry, for his part, inspected 5 enterprises specialized in the pharmaceutical production in the new town of Sidi Abdullah. The factory that you visited with us in Wad Samar will be operational from January the 8th. I am personally committed to the production of insulin in 2023. One factory is already ready, and I've decided that during this year, at least 50% of the country's needs of insulin will be locally produced. We have a production capacity that can cover the entire national market. The minister also assured during a conference that he favored dialogue and that his department has been mobilized to help the producers. He also inquired about the work rate of the Research and Development Center of Saidal. This visit was an opportunity to recall the commitments related to the production of insulin in Algeria and the efforts deployed to reinforce the local production of this medicine so as to cover the national market.
In a different context, and with the almost total disappearance of COVID-19, enough room was left for seasonal flu as the number of flu-contracted people keeps increasing and vaccination is strongly recommended by the doctors. Ines Gilou tells us more.
It's cold time and seasonal flu that doesn't spare anyone. Intense fatigue, headache, fever and sudden cough. All these symptoms have been present for more than 3 days in Murad. It's difficult to distinguish between COVID-19 and seasonal flu, so he went to the doctor for a checkup.
Influenza or seasonal flu is a disease that affects the upper and lower respiratory tract caused by a virus. 90% of cases are simple, but sometimes we receive people with complications. There isn't much difference between seasonal flu and COVID-19. It is practically the same thing, and the only way to know the difference is to go for an antigenic test.
Vaccination remains one of the best means of prevention against seasonal flu, according to doctors, especially for the elderly and people with chronic disease.
Le virus de la grippe, il provoque un pourcentage très important, notamment de formes compliquées de grippe, notamment chez les personnes
âgées. It is important to be careful. Most people do not give much importance to the seasonal flu, while it can develop complications or even be fatal. The only way to protect yourself against influenza is to be vaccinated, and seasonal flu or influenza vaccination is for everyone over 65 years of age, people with chronic diseases, and also for asthmatics.
infections. Doctors recommend getting inoculated 2 to 3 weeks before the winter period to allow time for the protective antibodies to build up, and it is not advisable to get vaccinated if you have the flu. Awareness campaigns play an important role in the prevention of seasonal flu, a disease that is not taken seriously in most cases but can be fatal if neglected.
Only a few days ahead of the CHAN due to be held in Algeria, the Ghanaian national team arrived to Algiers to take part in this continental tournament. The Black Galaxies were received at the Algiers International Airport by members of the Algerian Football Association. They are expected to take on Algeria in a friendly game next Sunday before rallying Constantine to compete for the next stage in Group C along with Madagascar, Sudan and Morocco.
Algeria is a football nation, and they are organizing the CHAN this year, 2023. So it tells me we are coming to a football nation, and we are coming to see football. You can't go to a war and say I'm going to lose. So we are here to be part of the winners, and we are here for a purpose. So we leave it to the Allah and God, and what deserves us and what we are ready for, we know we get it here.
Still with the CHAN event, to shed light on one of the hosting cities, namely Annaba in eastern Algeria, that is ready to welcome the participating teams of Group B with state-of-the-art stadiums and hotels. Let's discover more with our special envoy to this enchanting region, Ines Kilo.
The Pearl of Eastern Algeria, Annaba opens its arms to welcome its guests from the continent, to dazzle them with its sumptuous beauty during the CHAN that Algeria is to hold. With its ultra-modern facilities and thanks to the modern hotels and the various tourist sites, it will offer them all necessary accommodations starting with the participating teams. Annaba is going through a major change ahead of this important sporting event at the African level after hosting the matches of the 1990 African Cup of Nations. The May 19th 1956 stadium is once again ready to receive Group B matches in CHAN 2022. Annaba, with the second largest stadium in Algeria with a capacity of 56,000 seats, has also benefited from a renovation of almost 100% in a record time, with several facilities including a state-of-art pitch and brand new stands. The city has also witnessed development and embellishment operations of its avenues and road access to be ready during this continental sporting event. It is for sure that whoever visits Annaba during this CHAN will never forget it and will remain engraved in his memory. And this edition of the CHAN will certainly be the most beautiful ever organized.
In another development, the detained terrorist Meraghni El-Haj Ali, known as Aqil, made some serious confessions during which he gave details regarding his adhesion to abroad-based terrorist groups, as well as his involvement through social media in planning terrorist operations in Algeria. The Palestinian embassy in Algeria celebrated the 58th anniversary of the creation of the Fatah movement in the presence of the Algerian civil society members. The leaders of this movement hailed on the occasion Algeria's role in supporting Palestine and for being the first country in the world to open a bureau of the Fatah movement on its territory. Algeria strongly condemns the Zionist inclusion of Al-Aqsa Mosque in a flagrant violation of the international legality, resolutions defying all the feelings of Muslims and Christians alike all around the world. And the Palestinian authorities condemned also the inclusion of the Al-Aqsa Mosque by the extremist Zionist minister Ben Gvir, calling this act an unprecedented provocation. The Palestinian diplomacy said that this act legitimizes further incursions and violations of Al-Aqsa Mosque by the extremist settlers and poses a threat to the peace process in the Middle East and to the lives of the Palestinians as well. A number of Moroccan contractual teachers have been arrested following their participation in national protest movements in which they demanded their legitimate rights. Another verdict already sentenced 40 professors. Melissa Kebash with the details.
Another protest movement has been called for by several sectors across the Moroccan territories, including that of education. Teachers are out to denounce the policy of Akhanouche's government, qualified as incapable to deal nor to respond to the concerns of citizens. The disregard of Akhanouche's government towards the legitimate professional demands has only made the protesters stronger.
We are
here today in front of the ministry to express the terrible conditions we are going through. We are teachers with more than 30 years of experience.
من إفران تاونات من جميع أنحاء المغرب جايين كنعبروا على حقنا.
بس عندنا عادة كل مرة في الشهر أو مرة في الشهر ولينا كنحجوا للرباط.
So far no solution has been found. We've been coming to Rabat at least once a month. There is no glimpse of hope. The ministry has violated nearly all of its promises, which is why we are manifesting and we won't stop.
يعني التصعيد فيه اعتصام وفيه يعني احتجاج.
The Moroccan Federation of the Educational Sector's employees decided to implement a program to combat alongside other organizations. Strikes and demonstrations have been staged over the past 3 years by contractual teachers, including those aged between the age of 20 to 30, who took to the streets to voice their fed up with their situation. Despite the violent practices carried by police forces, the Teachers' Work Union maintains its position to fight and demonstrate in the capital Rabat to obtain a permanent contract and better working conditions. Teachers have been sentenced to prison for demanding their legitimate rights. As for what you see in these images, is the daily life of a Moroccan citizen. Fifteen teachers have been arrested and condemned to prison for participating in the national protests to claim a reform of their professional status and denounce the Moroccan authorities.
In other news, the European Parliament announced the launching of an emergency procedure at the request of the Belgian authorities to lift the immunity of 2 MPs as part of an investigation for corruption. The president of this European institution, Roberta Metsola, will formally communicate this request to the MPs during the next plenary session on the 16th of January in Strasbourg. The Parliamentary Committee for Legal Affairs will examine this demand behind closed doors, which will be voted by all the MPs. According to judicial sources, Morocco turned a parliamentary group in order to obtain its multiple interests. Back to local news, and a few days ahead of the Amazigh New Year, the Algerian people are getting ready to celebrate this event accordingly with our ancestral traditions, so colorful and festive. Najah Tayyar gives us a clear idea of the preparations being made in Blida province.
In Blida province, and particularly in Al-Arab region square, the tables and the decoration is all set for the market of Yanair, the Berber New Year celebrated on January 12th of each year. A big space is dedicated for selling the Yanair dishes ingredients such as al-kifta and heart of palm. This heart of palm are very rare and essential for the celebration of the New Year. There are also other dishes like tomina, but nothing is like the heart of palm. This is the kifta of Yanair. We prepare this especially for this celebration. It contains dry grapes, walnuts, and sometimes peanuts. It costs 1,200 dinars for the kilogram. It is highly demanded in this period. It is also very nutritious. Once the week of Yanair starts, the visitors come from everywhere to purchase all they need for the Berber New Year's Eve dinner and dessert. All the family members gather on the special dinner table with the shakshuka as a main dish. In years gone by, we used to prepare an organic tres that includes tangerine, oak, figs, plums, and lots of other natural foods. Unlike today, we must buy candy and chocolate to celebrate the new year and also to make the children happy. Yanair, an event that is celebrated since centuries, requires a traditional dish table as a blessing and a form of optimism for an abundant and happy new year.
And with that, we come to the end of our today's program. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.